Hello, everyone. My name is Rob Roa. I am a DJ and producer from Detroit, Michigan, and I'm very excited to have my first live interview here on YouTube. I'd like to bring on my very, very good friend, Aman Sahi, today, who has been a big influence to me here in Detroit and is a guy I lead on for advice, for industry knowledge, and very excited to bring him on today to talk about the concept of mind, body, and soul. Aman introduced me to this concept, and I, my goal is to understand it better and to be able to implement this into not just my music, but every aspect of my life. So, ladies and gentlemen, friends and family, internet people, may I present Aman Sahi.
What up, buddy?
What's going on,
Oh,
Aman?
I'm on a little podcast. I love this.
Yeah,
I
you
love it. Let's
live and
do it.
direct, coming
All right.
straight from the very first episode of the Rob Roa Chronicles. I'm very excited to have you to be talking with you today because you introduced me to this concept a while back called mind, body, and soul. And
Mm,
and that really resonated with me, and I want to grasp this concept really well and understand it so I can explain it to other people so I can really effectively implement this into my
I
brand.
get it. Yeah. I mean this it's interesting about this question. A lot of people are going to give you different answers. And when you actually when you break it down, it all ends up going down to a few what I call common denominators. Everything has common denominators. As you know, like when you're working on music,
Yeah.
it could be any genre of music you're working on, but there's always common denominators. So our job as musicians is breaking things down to common denominators sometimes. And you can kind of apply that to a lot of different things. And, there's mind, body, soul. Like the concept of mind, body, soul is something that was started probably a long time ago from cultures that are probably even extinct, right? Or maybe they're still around. It's everywhere till it gets passed down to generation, and it gets. Um, this is where spirituality comes into place, and my own definition tends to be on almost like a meditative self-analysis, more so anything to do with organized religion. I'm not saying organized religion is wrong. Obviously, it is perfectly great to have organized religion and God in your life, and I do have that. But my personal belief is that I came to my conclusion of a mind, body, soul is looking within myself. And that's something that, was it like Aristotle or Socrates? I forgot which one, or if you're Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure fan, you say
Hermes,
Socrates.
perhaps.
But one of those guys. It said something about like know thyself.
Oh, that's
That whole concept of that. It's like, hey, so much of my studies and reading has a lot to do with not just reading and studying, but actually applying things. And as musicians, we tend to write constantly. And it was Bob Dylan, or see, this is where I forget. I'm not going to equate the quote to Bob Dylan. I want to say it would be something he would say, but it could be like Bruce Springsteen. He said, go to the truth when you're writing a song. Go to the truth no matter where the truth takes you. And that hit me really hard. That was my beginning of what I would say growing up and understanding what mind, body, soul is. This was a concept that, growing up in India, that I should have heard it multiple times, and I did, but I never applied it to self-awareness, myself inside, right? So the first time I ever really thought about this was when I was reading a book called U2. It was a book about U2, and it was written by, I think, a guy named Billy Flanagan. U2, and it was their he was following their Actoon Baby Zoo TV tour, and it's called At the End of the World. And one of the things that was mentioned in the book during a conversation with Bono and Billy Flanagan
Mhm.
uh, was how either Bob Dylan or Bruce Springsteen said in songwriting, write the truth no matter where the truth takes you. And so when I read that 20 some years ago, that made me give me that Keanu Reeves moment. Like I was like, whoa, right? I was just like, okay, what can I do with this? Because I don't know what to do with it. So I'm going to be like, I'm going to do something with this. Let me see what my truth is. And that began my inner self of who I am,
Yeah.
right? Like there's the book right there. It's a great, absolutely great read, man. Wonderful book. Um, and what I ended up finding out was that there's a lot of needs for me. There's a lot of personal needs for how we exist. We have spirituality. We have a form of a body that we are in.
Hmm.
We have a brain that does our thinking, you know? So that there allows me to define, okay, my mind is separate from my body and is separate from my soul. So let me analyze those three concepts. And so one of the things that I started to really look into when I was writing certain songs that were incredibly deep to me at the time, it might have not been deep, but to me at the time, it was my first journey of like actually going to write the truth, no matter where it takes me. And that led me to like doing a lot of um, critical thinking, places where I've made mistakes, places where I feel I could learn from mistakes, different things that I've done, or just understanding the world and compartmentalizing it, finding the world's common denominator yet again. So it comes down to common denominator. And so I realized from my own self of like what I want to see in our, I guess, existence when we self-analyze ourselves is that I want the mind of myself, which I translate it to as how mentally strong I am sometimes, or how intellectual I want to be. I want to keep learning. I want to keep gaining knowledge. I want to read more. Reading changes the brain also for the better. You know, there's studies that are done, constantly reading, constantly writing. So
Hmm.
that's for the mind,
Hmm.
because knowledge is what's going to help us collect all of this information so we could find more and more common denominators and patterns. Life is so much about pattern recognition, especially in what we do, Rob, right? So we do a lot of music and like, hey, I've seen this pattern. I know how this is going to play out. Or this is interesting. This is something different, right? It's all about patterns. So that's the mind section for me. The body is obviously we need to make sure that as we get older, we are not just mentally centered, but our body, our core, we have a good balance in our life for our mind and also our body, to have. That's why I play a lot of tennis, ton of tennis, getting out there and just being active and being limber, flexibility. I don't do yoga. I
Hmm.
should. Um, which is interesting because talk about yoga is a little bit different. Like what we call yoga in the Western world um, is more on the asanama. That is what we call it in India because we focus on the yoga of um, the body here. Yoga in India is mind, body, soul. You're doing something for the mind or the body or the
Or,
soul. And so the soul is the one I think that is going to be the hardest to reach because what you're trying to do with meditation is try to see your soul. What is in your soul? And my own personal journey to find my soul has made me realize the first thing I need to do is to almost like break down my ego that self-centered side of me that wants validation is not a good thing. That side of me which is selfish is not a good thing. Where does it all come from? How can I be more giving? How can I just discover what my soul is so I know what to feed it? So all of these different things have, I feel like my personal journey would be different from some of the people who have maybe some gurus or like some other people who are talking or some books even. I kind of got to this whole thing just by analyzing, writing,
Mhm.
and going for the truth, no matter the truth, where the truth takes me. And that's how I look at it. It's like your mind, your body, and your soul all need some kind of food, something. Let's just call it food. And every day I do something for either the mind or the body or the soul. There's certain activities that I have in my life that give me food for all three, the
Mhm.
mind, the body, and the soul. Tennis does that for me,
Mhm.
which is why I love that sport because I feel not only am I getting exercise, but there's a lot of strategy involved and there's a mental readiness that I can apply to my life. But also, I absolutely love hitting the ball and I feel something for my soul in there. So I found an activity which gives me all three, which I love to do. If I can't do it, I'm still always working on other things like, with the mind, constantly reading,
Mhm.
writing a lot, talking to people like you. We've had some insanely amazing conversations just for knowing each other for like a year. Actually, we know what's crazy, Rob? We met almost a year ago.
It could be like to the day.
It will be
No,
to the
no.
day in about 4 or 5 days.
In about 4 or 5 days, we're gonna go on a year since we met. It's gonna be
Yeah, yeah, and we've had some incredible conversations, man. I've learned a lot from you, and it's just awesome to have like-minded people to have conversations which are not just cookie cutter conversations, and that's what I appreciate about what you do, what you're even doing right now. Totally amazing new avenue that you're exploring, and but it's always been you.
yeah,
It's always been you, I feel like. So you're finally just
full
you've created
throttle.
this
I am.
vessel. I think that's going to help a lot of people. It's going to help you, just to talk, have some real talks instead of just having cookie cutter talks. So, but that's how I looked at mind, body, soul. And then you could take it further. I mean, do you have any specific questions of what my own
Okay,
philosophy is
so
going to be totally different than what other people are going to be saying, right?
yeah, it is. And as I was trying to explain this concept earlier to my group, I was just kind of channeling from my soul what my concept of mind, body, and soul was to me.
Yeah.
You know, which
Your truth. Yes.
my truth, but thank you for really explaining how it goes. Definitely have a better grasp of it now. And I think what really resonated to me, what you said was that the mind is separate from the body.
Yeah.
And that is true because, we are infinite. We're
Hmm.
infinite. We are a soul and a mind that controls the body. So in
Hmm.
essential, it's almost like we're avatars
Yeah,
to our
absolutely.
to our
It-
eternal soul.
Absolutely. And what's interesting about that whole avatar concept, we have a unit for so many things in our life, a unit of measurement of multiple things. One of the things that science has been trying to do is come up with a unit for consciousness. And that is takes us on this journey of quantum physics. It takes us on journeys that are makes us even like question reality. It makes us be like, okay, can a machine be alive if it has a consciousness? What is a consciousness? Let's create a consciousness. And so all of these things, I think we have the concept of them, but we're trying to constantly learn new things. And I always looked at the mind is so complex. We can study it our entire life, and the best we can do is get to the smallest common denominator for our own personal selves and pass that knowledge on so somebody could take it further, like a baton, you know? So, it's really cool what's happening because a lot of science is trying to understand some philosophical concepts now. And they're saying, okay, can we run an experiment for this, you know? So that's how I looked at the mind. It's like, what is my mind?
It's
It's
a computer.
pattern recognition. It's something that takes in a bunch of information,
Mm-hmm.
just like AI would, like,
Kind of like a hard
right?
drive. Kind of like a hard
And
drive.
absolutely. And then you try to make sense out of it. And the way humans make sense out of things are through patterns. You know, that's where we see patterns. We see patterns. I mean, we're affected by patterns our whole life from the time when we're, toddlers. That's where we pick up on subconscious things that might be good or bad, could be, a certain emotion that comes up when you see a certain food, or a certain, negative emotion when something else happens, and you could carry it on to adulthood. These are all pattern recognition things that we go through. And so I think the mind has a lot to do with um, strengthening your pattern recognition, understanding it quicker, compartmentalizing complex emotions quicker, and that's the whole reason I think to study mind, body, and soul, because their emotions are so complex, especially when you throw your ego into the mix. You need to be able to identify, oh, that's my ego talking. Oh, this is coming from um, this part of the brain that is reacting to instinctive things. And then let's
Mhm.
take a breath and there's a lot going on in there. And so it is a personal journey. I think it's wonderful more people talk about it. So it's about just getting rid of your ego and enjoying and connecting with people and just seeing what you can create that can outlive you. So
It's so true, and I like what you're saying about the brain. I feel like we are trying to, in a way, we're trying to reverse engineer the brain
yeah,
because the brain is the perfect example of quantum technology. Our brain is processing at a quantum level. Everything we're doing, from having this conversation, moving our body, powering our organs, is quantum energy. So, and so we are machines.
hmm,
Our brain is sending electrical pulses,
absolutely.
but everything goes through the heart.
Yeah.
The heart is the power, the source that controls everything. And so for the past year, I've been diving into all these concepts and I've been going to therapy and I've been doing all this work to shed myself of this ego that has been like a barrier that has been holding me back from really unlocking all my gifts
Yeah.
that I've had this whole time,
Yeah.
And so it took a lot of looking inside to realize that it's not about what's happening on the outside. It's what's going on the inside.
How you're internalizing the outside world. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
you want to be in charge of how you're internalizing it. You don't want your subconscious, which has picked up on patterns since childhood in a
Mhm.
subconscious level, sometimes looks at them. And, there's times where we've all had things to do where we're running late and something happens that it pushes you back, or maybe somebody cuts you off in traffic
Mhm.
and anger comes out.
Yeah.
And if we stop and just think about, okay, that person in there who cut me off,
Mhm.
give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they're running home because their kid's sick,
Mhm.
or maybe they truly didn't see you and they would never have done that if they saw you, you know? Maybe they're not the evil person or the inconsiderate person that you're the anger side of your brain wants to believe, and that
Mhm.
because that's a reactionary thing. So when you start to look at those types of things, you start to, in a way, you're forgiving other people, and it's the same time you've because you've forgiven yourself for your own reactionary things, you know? So,
Yeah, I've done that. You know,
mhm.
I used to get super annoyed if someone's real tailgating me.
Oh yeah,
And oh man, that would really bother me. That would really trigger me, and that would literally be a trigger. Like
yeah.
I do stupid shit like hit my
Break
brakes,
check.
check,
Yeah.
a little brake check,
Ugh.
and then like I'm like,
Then they get angrier and
and then I had to stop doing that, man. I
yeah.
was like, I live in Detroit, and
Oh yeah.
like that, you do that to the wrong person, and something might happen. Like
Yeah.
I get nervous, and that can happen anywhere.
Oh
That can
yeah.
happen
But
anywhere.
Florida is notorious for that, right? There's always, you're from Florida as well. Like
Yeah.
there's no shortage of people who are reactionary with
Yeah.
some type of a firearm, and that's the whole studying of the mind, body, soul gives you control. That's what it is. And you're trying to gain control over your own self so you can be centered and calm. And it's not like I am any type of expert in this thing, but I've just put my own concept together. Of course, I've had moments where I like lose it, but I have tools now to help me not lose it really badly or for me to get myself back into having, um, you know,
Yeah. Calm state.
letting things go, things like that. So, yeah, this is cool, man.
This is great,
Love
man.
your logo, bro.
I love
What?
this conversation. Yeah. New logo.
Yeah,
I made that the other day. Um, it's part of just me being my most truest, authentic self.
yeah.
I'm probably the happiest I've been in a long time.
Oh man, that's
You know,
awesome to hear. That's
lot of
huge.
lot of great things going on in my life. My
Yeah,
family has gotten a lot closer. You
that's
know,
good. That's great.
my daughter and my
Yeah,
granddaughter are
yeah,
just very important in my life, and they're the focus of my life right now.
yeah, yeah,
And just grateful for my friends and my community here, my music friends, my
yeah.
creators. We all help each other out as well, and
Yeah.
that's one thing I like about Detroit is that we got a great community here of people that
Hmm.
lift each other up and support and give each other flowers, and
Yeah,
that's what
absolutely.
that's what kept me here. I came to visit like 3 years ago, wait, 4 years ago now. Oh my God,
Yeah.
you know, and I came to visit, and I was like, this is
Yeah.
there's something
Detroit's
going
definitely been
on.
an incubator for a lot of good concepts and ideas. So many things have started in Detroit,
Yeah.
and there's a reason for that. I think people are willing to just sit down and have conversations and talk and see how far art can go.
Hmm.
I've noticed that about the community in Detroit. The community is like that in other places too. In West Palm, it was like that with this group of people. You know the propaganda. It's like a venue that's
I know
in
that
Lake,
group. Hmm.
right?
Yeah, yeah, I know that
There's
group.
a group of people that go there. They're constantly what you want to see a community do, and they have put together their own shows.
Hmm.
They've put together their own art galleries, and it's their own peers, and they're supporting each other, and they're taking each other's art further. And it's underground. It's really cool. It's underground, but it's there. When you see it, you're like, wow, how is this not how do not more people not know about this? So, I mean, I was going to some like underground punk rock shows in a parking lot. Uh, 4 years ago before the pandemic at a t-shirt company, in Boynton. That was kind of
Oh yeah,
fun.
I
Yeah.
I know that space, man. I know those. I know all those people, man.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had I owned my studio in Delray Beach for 9 years.
That's awesome.
And, got to work with a lot of talented people. I got to see a lot of cultures emerge from out of, Boynton, out of Lake Worth,
Hmm.
Palm Beach, and just a tight group of people that, they count on each other to come to events, to spread the art, and
Yeah.
it's good to see that. It's good to see that still happening there. And shout out to South Florida, Delray Beach. I'm coming down there on Sunday to DJ at
What?
the Open. What? Yeah, yeah. Where
Back to tennis, yeah. Tennis again. Like
back
back
to
to
tennis.
tennis.
There
My
goes
mind, body, soul.
that's the ultimate mind, body, and soul exercise is tennis. So I'm gonna be definitely sign me up for some matches with you up there. I'd love
Yeah,
to come play some games with you and explore that sport some more. Since
absolutely, man.
it's
Yeah.
close to
It's
that.
good times. This is awesome. Love the show, man. So much, I hope it's going to be incredibly fun for you to do the show all the time.
Thanks,
And I
man.
want to come back to it anytime. Just surprise me like you did today. Like, what are you doing? You want to FaceTime? Sure. Oh, we're doing a
Yeah,
podcast?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I didn't even know I was gonna do a podcast
Yeah.
either. I just said, you know what? I'm about to have a really good conversation.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be really cool to capture that,
How about that?
and
Yeah.
we might even put it on the blockchain and make it eternal,
Do it.
because that's
Do
the
it.
kind of stuff we're doing now.
Uh,
Aman, thank you so much for your
thanks.
time and
Thank you.
wisdom. You're a big center of influence for me, and I love what you
Appreciate that,
do,
man.
and
Likewise,
I want to
man.
give it back as well. I want to reciprocate and and happy to be on any projects that you're doing, and
Yeah.
definitely keep me in the loop. And
You're always going to be on every project, man. You're one of the
let's
coolest people.
go.
All right. All right.
Awesome,
Thank you
brother.
so much, Rob. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Be safe.
See
That's how
you.
we get into it. Peace.